Raymond Burr convinced America he buried 2 wives and a son. The New York Times printed it in his obituary. Every major newspaper repeated the story. For 40 years, he talked about plane crashes, cancer deaths, and a 10-year-old boy with leukemia. Hollywood believed every word, but none of it was true. When he died in 1993, his will revealed something shocking. He left his entire $32 million estate to one man he had been living with the entire time. The truth was darker than any TV plot. Raymond Burr was born on May 21, 1917, in New Westminster, just outside Vancouver. His father, William, sold hardware. His mother, Minerva, taught music. She came from a military family. Burr's grandfather had been a provincial police officer. Other relatives worked in jails. Raymond grew up with sleigh rides in the snow and summers by the water in Boundary Bay. His childhood seemed calm on the surface, but that calm would not last. His life changed drastically when the family moved to China. His father suddenly became a trade agent, and they lived in China for about 5 years. No one knows much about what he actually did there. But the country was going through chaos in the 1920s, and Burr, still a child, had to adjust. He saw things most kids never did. When they came back, everything had changed. His parents' marriage fell apart, and the family broke. His mother took Raymond, his brother James, and sister Geraldine, and moved to Vallejo, California. That was around 1923 or 1924. They stayed at a small hotel owned by Minerva's parents. Burr's father stayed behind. The children had little to no contact with him after that. The Great Depression hit hard. The family struggled to survive. Burr was still a boy when he started helping out. He grew up fast. By the time he was a teenager, he had already left school. He took whatever work he could find. He said he worked on a ranch in Roswell. Some say he even passed as an adult there because of his size. He took jobs as a deputy sheriff, nightclub singer, and photo salesman. Some of that might be true, some not. Burr often changed the details, but what's clear is that he did whatever it took to earn money. He also went to the San Rafael Military Academy, but didn't stay long. He faced bullying. His family couldn't afford the fees. Despite all this, he never let go of his dream of becoming an actor. He started acting on stage in Vancouver when he was 12. He joined repertory companies in Canada, India, Australia, and England. In 1937, at age 20, he joined the Pasadena Playhouse. That was a major turning point. He taught drama at San Jose Junior College for a short time. In 1940, he moved to New York. In 1941, he got his first Broadway role. It didn't last. The show closed in 3 months, but Burr kept going. In 1946, he got his first credited film role in San Quentin. He played a minor character, but it was the start of something big. Over the next 10 years, he acted in more than 90 films. Most of his roles were villains, tough, angry, violent men. He played convicts, dirty cops, and cold-blooded killers. Movies like Desperate, Code of the West, and Raw Deal made him famous for being terrifying. His huge size and deep voice helped. He had a way of making even the worst men feel real. By 1951, everyone in Hollywood knew he was the go-to villain. But everything changed in 1954 when Alfred Hitchcock cast him as the quiet, creepy neighbor in Rear Window. Burr played Lars Thorwald, a man suspected of murder. James Stewart and Grace Kelly starred in the film, but Burr left a lasting impression. Hitchcock kept him in the shadows, often just a shape in the distance. That made him scarier. The film made over $27 million back then, which would be more than $300 million today. It was nominated for 4 Oscars. Burr's role became iconic. Then came something no one expected. In 1956, Burr became the face of America's version of Godzilla. The original Japanese film had been released in 1954. When it was adapted for U.S. audiences, they cut much of the Japanese footage and added scenes with Burr. He played reporter Steve Martin. He filmed all his scenes in one day. He acted next to extras who faced away from the camera, so it looked like he was really there. The film earned $2 million in the U.S. and made Godzilla a household name. Burr returned to the role in Godzilla 1985. The original movie had a strong anti-nuclear message, but Burr's version softened it for American viewers. Still, Burr couldn't shake the label of villain. He was 6'2", had a booming voice, and weighed over 300 pounds at times. Directors cast him over and over as the bad guy. He even played self-parodies in comedy films. His skill at playing complex villains earned him praise, but it also trapped him. Raymond Burr almost didn't get the role that made him a star. When the Perry Mason series was being cast, the producers wanted Burr to play Hamilton Berger, the district attorney. That role was important, but not the lead. Burr didn't accept it quietly. He pushed hard to be considered for Perry Mason instead. The producers thought he was too heavy for the part. Burr didn't argue. He just started losing weight. In 1 month, he dropped 60 pounds. Then he came back to audition again. At the audition, the creator of Perry Mason, early Stanley Gardner, was in the room. As Burr read, Gardner stood up, pointed at the screen, and said, "That's Perry Mason." That moment changed Burr's life. If he hadn't fought for the role, television history would be different. William Hopper had also been considered for the role of Mason. After Burr got the part, Hopper was cast as private detective Paul Drake instead. Burr's decision to push for a second audition and the effort he made to change his appearance shaped the future of the show. Perry Mason premiered on CBS on September 21, 1957. It was more than a new legal drama. It became a major moment in television. Over 9 seasons, it aired 271 episodes. That was a massive number for a 1-hour drama at the time. It became the longest-running lawyer show in American television. In many ways, it still holds that record thanks to its continued popularity in reruns and movies. It was one of the first weekly 1-hour shows filmed specifically for TV. That helped set the format for all legal dramas that came after. The show found success right away. By the early 1960s, 30 million people were watching it every Saturday night. Burr received around 3,000 fan letters each week. It wasn't just popular, it was respected. In its first season, the show was nominated for a Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Dramatic Series. It also became one of the top 5 shows on television. In 1960, the American Bar Association gave it the first Silver Gavel Award ever given to a television drama. That award meant the legal community took the show seriously. The entire series was later released on DVD and has aired in syndication around the world for decades. Raymond Burr's performance was a big reason for the show's success. He won 2 Emmy Awards for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series, first in 1959, then again in 1961. He was also nominated in 1960. That made 3 straight years of recognition. Burr became one of the most respected actors on television. In 1960 and 1961, he was named Favorite Male Performer in TV Guide's reader polls. His co-star, Barbara Hale, who played Della Street, also won an Emmy for Supporting Actress. Gardner, the man who created the character, even began to see Burr as the real Perry Mason. The role and the actor had become one and the same. But Burr's success came with a heavy price. He worked non-stop. He lived in a bungalow on the studio lot and worked 15-hour days. He woke up at 3:30 a.m. to memorize his lines. Some days, he had to learn 14 pages of dialogue overnight. He only got 1 day off per week. He told people he felt like a prisoner of Perry Mason. He slept only 4.5 hours a night. When asked about his health, he joked, "I don't have time for germs." Behind that joke was a deeper truth. The brutal schedule gave him an excuse to keep his personal life private. In 1960, Burr met Robert Benavides. They stayed together in secret for over 30 years. At the time, being openly gay could destroy an actor's career. Burr created fake stories about marriages and lost children to protect his privacy. The long work hours helped explain why he was never seen with a family. After his death, many parts of his biography were found to be untrue, but they had served their purpose. They gave him the freedom to love in private and to protect his public image. Despite the cost, Burr became the highest-paid actor on television. At the peak of Perry Mason, he earned $1,800 per episode. Over 271 episodes, that added up to a fortune. He also earned money from syndication and TV movies. With that wealth, he started an orchid business, ran a vineyard, and collected wine and art. He also used his money to help others. Quietly, he fostered dozens of children. He didn't make a show of it. He just gave back in private. His financial success helped him live life his own way. In 1967, Burr returned to television as a completely different kind of character. He played Robert T. Ironside, a police detective who was paralyzed from the waist down after being shot by a sniper. Ironside didn't quit after his injury. He took a new role as a special consultant to the San Francisco Police Department. He used a specially modified police van with bulletproof glass and a high-performance engine. He led a diverse team and continued to solve crimes using strategy and intellect. The show didn't treat his disability as a gimmick. It was part of who he was, but it didn't define his worth. The show aired 195 episodes over 8 seasons. The pilot episode aired as a TV movie on March 28, 1967. In that story, Ironside tricked his friend, the police commissioner, into giving him the job. It showed his sharp mind and his willpower. That kind of character had never been seen on American television before. The show became a turning point for how disability was shown on screen. It helped audiences see strength in a new way. Burr's acting was praised once again. He received 6 Emmy nominations for his work on Ironside. The show was nominated for Best TV Series, Drama at the Golden Globes in both 1969 and 1972. Burr was also nominated for Best TV Actor. The writing and the episodes were recognized too. Even though the show didn't always get top ratings, it had a loyal audience. Critics respected it. It told smart stories and explored deep character issues. Burr's performance as Ironside proved he could carry another hit show, even after Perry Mason. He also had more control this time. Burr formed Harbor Productions Unlimited, which co-produced Ironside with Universal Television. That was rare for actors in the 1960s. It gave him power over the stories, casting, and direction. His company also produced other shows like The Bold Ones, The New Doctors, and Sarge. Some of these shows even crossed over with Ironside. Burr used this control to shape the show around his values. He wanted dignity and realism, especially when it came to portraying disability. Producing his own show also let him manage how the world saw him. That control mattered in an era when secrets could destroy careers. As Raymond Burr became famous for Ironside, he also became more careful. He had to protect the image he built. Hollywood in the 1960s was not kind to people who were different. Being openly gay could end a career overnight. So Burr started telling stories. Not just small lies, full-blown fictions. He didn't just bend the truth. He created an entire life that never happened. One of his biggest stories was about his first wife, Annette Sutherland. Burr claimed she was an actress from England or Scotland. He said they married before World War II. Then, he said, she died in 1943 when her plane was shot down by German fighters. The same crash that killed actor Leslie Howard. That part was true. The crash happened. But Annette Sutherland was never on the plane. Her name wasn't on the list. Only 3 women were aboard: Evelyn Peggy Margetts Stonehouse, Rotha Hutchin, and her baby daughter Petra. Burr said he even flew to Spain and Portugal to investigate her death. He stuck to this story for decades. Newspapers believed him. Biographers repeated it. No one questioned it until years after his death. When people finally looked deeper, they found out she never existed. Then came the story of his son. Burr said his name was Michael Evan Burr. He claimed the boy was born in 1942. According to Burr, Michael was raised in England until Burr brought him to America. Then, he said, tragedy struck again. Michael got leukemia and died at age 10. Burr even gave interviews about it in 1991. He said he took his son on a year-long road trip to show him the country before he died. The story was so sad, no reporter wanted to dig deeper. But they should have. There were no birth records, no school records, no death records. Burr's ex-wife, Isabella Ward, said she never even heard of the boy. She said if Burr had a child, he would have told her. Still, the lie stuck. It showed up in magazine stories, press interviews, and books. Burr didn't stop there. He invented another wife, Laura Andrina Morgan. He said they got married in the 1950s. He claimed she died of cancer just before a delayed honeymoon in the Bahamas. It sounded tragic and real, but again, there was no proof, no wedding certificate, no death notice. No one knew her. Burr's sister, Geraldine Fuller, later confirmed it. She said Isabella Ward was the only real wife he ever had. Still, Burr kept the story going. He talked about Laura's death in detail, even years later. Reporters believed it. His fans did too. The only marriage that actually happened was with Isabella Ward. They got married on January 10, 1948. It lasted only a few months. Some records say they stayed legally married until 1952. Ward said she never met any of the other wives or heard about any children. Even though their marriage was short, Burr used it as a shield. It gave him just enough truth to protect his bigger lies. Whenever people asked questions, he brought up Isabella. That helped blur the rest. Burr knew what he was doing. His fake life was carefully built. Every detail was designed to shut down questions. He lost 2 wives to tragedy. He buried a young son. He survived heartbreak. It made him untouchable. No journalist wanted to press a man who had suffered that much. And Burr knew how to shut people down. Whenever someone got too close, he said, "It's too painful to discuss." That was the end of it. There was more. Burr claimed he served in the U.S. Navy. He said he was wounded in Okinawa in 1945. He said he survived a kamikaze attack and still had shrapnel in his body. He said he got the Purple Heart. These stories were everywhere, in magazines, in interviews, and in some books. But none of them were true. Military records showed no sign he ever served. Some people say he taught navigation to Army troops in Canada. But even that has no real proof. The stories didn't stop. Burr claimed things that required more lies to keep up. One lie led to another. He had to explain where he was, who he was with, and why no one ever saw these people. He talked about traveling with his dying son. He talked about investigating plane crashes. He described honeymoons that never happened. Each story became more detailed than the last, and people believed him. Even his biographers didn't question it. His publicist, John Strauss, worked with Burr from 1953 onward. He said Burr never mentioned any of these wives or his son. Not even once. He also didn't talk about war wounds or military service. But Strauss had a job to do. He had to protect Burr's image. And in 1950s Hollywood, that meant hiding the truth. Even close friends were kept in the dark. By 1961, Burr's situation got even riskier. The FBI had files on him. The American Bar Association had flagged him as a noted sex deviant, a term used for homosexuals at the time. Burr knew what that meant. Exposure would end everything. That made his lies more desperate. He had to protect not just his career, but also his safety. Raymond Burr was a star by 1960. He had just won 2 Emmy Awards for playing Perry Mason. Millions watched him every week. He looked like the perfect man on TV. But behind that image was a secret. That same year, on the set of Perry Mason, Burr met Robert Benavides. He was a young actor and had served in the Korean War. He wasn't famous, but he stood out. They started talking. They shared a love for acting, gardening, and quiet moments away from fame. Something clicked between them. It didn't take long for friendship to turn into something deeper. But this was 1960. 2 men being in love could ruin everything. They had to be careful. They became a couple soon after they met. According to Benavides, their relationship started that same year. It lasted 33 years, all the way until Burr died in 1993. For over 3 decades, they built a life together while hiding in plain sight. The media never knew the truth. They called Benavides a friend or a business partner. Even Burr's own team helped keep the story going. They pushed lies about marriages and a dead son to protect his reputation. But the truth was always there, behind closed doors. In 1963, Benavides stopped acting. He didn't like the pressure. Burr saw talent in him and suggested he switch to producing. Benavides took the leap. They opened an office at Universal City and started working together full-time. He became a key part of Burr's projects, especially the Perry Mason TV movies. Benavides helped with scripts, casting, and production. He worked behind the scenes while Burr remained the face of their empire. They also started their own company, Harbor UTV Productions. It produced several shows and helped both men stay financially strong. To the world, it looked like a smart business partnership, but it was built on something far more personal. Away from the cameras, they created a whole different life. They loved plants, especially orchids. They opened sea god nurseries, which grew into a massive business. At its peak, they operated in California, Hawaii, the Azores, and Fiji. They didn't just grow flowers, they created over 1,500 new orchid types. One was even named after Burr's co-star, Barbara Hale. This wasn't just a hobby. It was their escape. A world where they could be themselves. In the 1980s, they started a vineyard in Dry Creek Valley, California. They planted Cabernet Sauvignon in 1986. Their first vintage was bottled in 1992, just a year before Burr died. The vineyard still carries his name. It was their dream, turned into something real, far from Hollywood and its lies. But nothing showed their need for privacy like the island. From 1965 to 1985, they owned a 4,000-acre island in Fiji called Naitauba. It wasn't just a holiday home. They raised cattle there. They grew coconuts. They helped the locals, even during a flu outbreak. The island gave them freedom. No cameras, no press, just peace. They also built a famous orchid garden there, the Garden of the Sleeping Giant. Visitors still go there today. The place carries their legacy in every flower. Still, they couldn't escape the need for cover stories. One of the most talked about ones was Burr's so-called romance with Natalie Wood. She was just 17. He was 38. The studios arranged fake dates to boost her career and protect his. In reality, she was secretly with Robert Wagner, and Burr was with Benavides. Years later, Wood joked about the whole thing, saying, "That was something the publicists made up to protect Ray. It worked." The press ate it up, and Burr's secret stayed hidden. But sometimes, the mask slipped. One day, a contractor came to Burr's house in Malibu. Burr answered the door wearing only a pink bathrobe. The man, a big fan, didn't know what to say. He later told others he was more shocked by the color than anything else. In that era, even a pink robe could raise questions. Burr tried hard to look like a grieving husband and father, but small moments like this made people wonder. Reporters were always watching, always digging. Raymond Burr lived a double life. One was scripted and polished, crafted by studios to fit the times. The other was real, quiet, and hidden. He loved Robert Benavides for 33 years. Together, they built a home, a business, and a life that lasted. They found joy in orchids, peace on an island, and success in television. They did it all under the radar because they had no choice. Raymond Burr's final months were filled with quiet strength. At 76, he had already fought through surgery to remove a cancerous kidney tumor. But by spring of 1993, the doctors found it had spread to his liver. It couldn't be removed. He knew what was coming. Still, he chose to work. That same spring, he filmed one last Perry Mason movie. His body was failing, but he kept acting like nothing had changed. He returned to his ranch in Sonoma County near Healdsburg. That's where he threw a few goodbye parties. Friends and colleagues gathered, shared stories, and raised glasses. These weren't somber events. He wanted laughter. He wanted warmth. He wanted his people to remember him as he was, alive and working. On September 12, 1993, at 8:40 p.m., Raymond Burr died. He was at home, surrounded by close friends and his doctor. No family was present. His sister Geraldine was too sick to travel. What shocked many wasn't just the cancer or the death. It was what came after. Obituaries in major newspapers, including the New York Times, repeated Burr's invented life story. They claimed he had lost 2 wives and a young son. They said he was a World War II veteran who got injured in Okinawa. But none of that was true. These were stories he had made up decades earlier. And even after death, those lies lived on. His publicists had helped build those stories. At the time, being openly gay in Hollywood could kill a career. So Burr built a false history to protect himself. No one questioned it. Reporters printed whatever he said. That included fake marriages, a made-up son, and imaginary war injuries. All of it felt real because he told it with such conviction. The truth didn't come from interviews or confessions. It came from his will. When Burr died, he left his entire estate to one man, Robert Benavides. The amount was said to be $32 million, though his lawyer later said that was exaggerated. Still, every penny went to Benavides. They had been together for 33 years. They met on the set of Perry Mason. By 1960, they were inseparable. They raised orchids. They ran a vineyard. They lived together, worked together, and traveled together. But Burr never said it publicly. He never admitted they were partners. He never told the press. In silence, they built a life. And when Burr died, Benavides got everything. Burr's nieces and nephews tried to fight the will. They lost. The court recognized what Burr never could, who he really loved, and who stood by him through everything. After his death, the truth began to unravel. Journalists started digging. There were no records of Annette Sutherland, his first wife, dying in the 1943 plane crash with Leslie Howard. That crash did happen, but she wasn't on it. His second wife, Laura Andrina Morgan, never existed. Neither did Michael Evan, the son who died of leukemia in 1953. And his military records? There were none. No service, no Okinawa, no injuries. Raymond Burr had crafted an entire alternate life. It fooled everyone, but it wasn't done to impress. It was survival. In mid-century Hollywood, being exposed could end everything. He chose lies, not to deceive fans, but to protect the love he wasn't allowed to show.